Nearly 700,000 Oklahomans who rely on SNAP benefits will lose those benefits for food this weekend unless Congress ends that government shutdown.
Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle are growing impatient. Joining us live this morning from Washington, D.C. is Senator James Lankford. Senator, thank you for joining us. Where are we as of right now this morning with the shutdown? Any progress at all?
We are still stuck. A group of Democrats all pulled together a proposal to be able to pull us out of this. They handed it to Chuck Schumer, and Senator Schumer said, nope, it's not time to be able to end this yet. And so we are waiting on the moment that he actually puts a proposal on the table. Their initial proposal was for $1.5 trillion in new Obamacare funding and climate change initiatives, all kinds of things that they knew no one would move on. That actually was in October. They've not actually done another proposal since then. They've just said, no, we're keeping it closed. So we've had 13 votes just to open the government status quo, no funny games, no partisan anything, just keep it open at the same levels we were at before. They voted down every single one of those. We voted last week to fund SNAP benefits for the entire year and said, let's just actually let's take that off the table. Let's fund them for the entire year. Democrats also voted that down. So we're stuck in some ways. The goal that they had was shut down, and we're still waiting for them to actually come to the table to finish it out.
Well, November 1st, this Saturday, is the trigger date. We've been doing stories on this every day. There's a lot of Oklahomans, hundreds of thousands, that rely on these SNAP benefits, and folks are getting worried about how are they going to put food on the table. I mean, what do you say to Oklahomans who are on those SNAP benefits?
Yeah, it's been incredibly frustrating. I tell folks, hey, I voted 13 times to open the government up. It just status quo. I voted last week on full funding for the entire year for SNAP. That also was voted down. So we've done everything we can do at this point. Very grateful for the regional food bank, for so many churches and nonprofits that have stepped up. A lot of our Native American tribes have also stepped up to be able to help tribal members. This is a big challenge. It's 684,000 Oklahomans on some level receive some of these benefits. Now, President Trump has moved, he's allowed by law to do this, to be able to move some of the tariff revenue into the WIC program. That's the women, infants, and children for some of the most vulnerable at that point. So that will remain funded, but he's literally moving funds around. He's done the same for the military, moved some research and development funds in the military to personnel to be able to cover military pay. But you can't do that on every one of these areas. You don't have that kind of flexibility. We're at the end of the fiscal year. They don't have those dollars available for everything. And so it has been very frustrating.
And it's not just, like you said, SNAP food benefits or even military paychecks. We've reported today on furloughs by DHS here in Oklahoma. Head Start is in crisis. Kind of address some of these other areas as well, Senator.
Yeah, it's been some of my frustration. I've had a couple of my colleagues said, okay, let's see if we can fund air traffic control, which I'm all in for. We need to fund the academy and air traffic control. It's happening, but that leaves out Head Start. That leaves out ag programs. That leaves out USDA. That leaves out the National Weather Service. So we really need to fund everything. The last 13 times during when we've had a moment like this, including during the Biden administration, we got to this moment, we disagreed on things, we voted to keep status quo while we keep debating. Democrats have this time said they don't want to do that. They want to close the government down. They want to have some demands on this. So that's been the most frustrating part on there's a way to get out of this. Y'all know, because we've talked about it before, I have a bill that takes government shutdowns off the table entirely. We had 57 votes for that last session. I'm working that as soon as we get the government open to try to get the final votes for that. You need 60 in the Senate to move anything. I've had a majority, but haven't had enough. But I'd like for this to be the last shutdown we ever have as a country.
How many votes are we away from the government reopening? And Senator, then are we doing all this over again if we got it open on the 21st of November? That's another big date. Here we go again.
It is. It is. So we're 5 votes away at this point. We have 55 votes, with a majority, but we need 60 in the Senate to be able to move anything. We would like to. I've actually proposed this yesterday. There are several colleagues that agree. I'd like to be able to push this out into January so that we don't reopen for 3 weeks and then go through this all over again. That kind of chaos for federal workers and their families and for every federal program doesn't help us. It hurts our economy and hurts families. So I'd like to be able to push this out to January, and in the meantime, finish the appropriation bills that have got to actually get done. With 3, we tried to do last week to say, hey, let's settle some of these, including the SNAP benefits, settle it for the rest of the year, and my Democrat colleagues wouldn't get on it at all. But we have several bills ready to go to be able to make sure we have full year funding, not just temporary. Let's get those done.
Senator, your final thoughts. We have just a few seconds left. Your message for Oklahomans this morning.
Continue to pray for each other, take care of each other. That's what we do as Oklahomans. We'll continue to do the work. At this point, we're waiting for, I don't know what, we think that Chuck Schumer is holding out until after the New York City mayoral election that's next Tuesday. So maybe after that time period, they'll be willing to be able to reopen the government and get us going. But at this point, we're doing the work that we can do to be able to keep us going and trying to keep politics out of it, saying let's just open it. Even the federal employee unions have now stepped forward and said, just open it. Everybody gets your message. So we'll keep doing our work. You keep praying and serving our neighbors.
Well, this affects, millions of people all across the country. Senator, we appreciate what you're doing for Oklahomans, and keep pressuring to get that deal done for us.
We will. We'll stay at the work.
All right, Senator James Lankford there in Washington, D.C. We appreciate you live here this morning with us back in Oklahoma.
Thank you, Senator.